Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our session that is directly related to Excel competitions. So in today's session, I'm just going to try to demonstrate how to apply roughly 23 Excel high-level functions in cases. First of all, I let you know that the sources, Excel files for study purpose without solution and with solutions, so there are two files, have been shared with you. So you can find the link in the chat box of YouTube section, or just let me just share my screen and show you where else you can find these files. So I'm going to share my screen. So here, this is my meetup page, Azerbaijan Data and AI Community. And by the way, I'm also going to share the link. So here you can see all the upcoming sessions. Today's session is called the new Excel Toolkit from Let to MAKEARRAY. So if you click on this, here you can find the link for your further consideration. So this is the link where you can find all the files. By the way, taking it an opportunity, I kindly ask you to subscribe to my meetup group and also my YouTube channel. So let me stop sharing my screen. After this, we are going to start with, demonstrate our Excel files. I kindly let you know that the files has been generated by AI tool. So there you can find the necessary explanation. However, I'm just going to demonstrate how to solve this problem. And after, you can apply all these, just learnings, outcomes of today's session. So once again, I'm going to share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. And the file is called study, the new Excel toolkit from Let to MAKEARRAY. And here, just we're going to study, or let's say, we're going to say study with VLOOKUP function, right? So I hope and strongly believe that every Excel user is familiar with VLOOKUP function. There are a number of lookup functions, so we can say VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, lookup itself, index, and match. And later, Microsoft Excel program team added also XLOOKUP. So we can say XLOOKUP with XMatch, right? So every function has its pluses and minuses. So let's get started with VLOOKUP. Just let's type in any cell like VLOOKUP. So here we see, parameters of this VLOOKUP function. Lookup value, table array, column index number. These are mandatory one, and also range lookup, that is Boolean logic, true or false values, and which is optional. If you don't select this, the true option is working. So which means that approximate match, later we'll explain this. If we are interested in exact match, in this case, we are going to select false or 0. So I hope we know Boolean logic. So true, we have true and false values. True is 1 and 0 is false. If we say true times by true, we'll get 1. If we say true times by false, we get, 0. So this is what, when we hear Boolean logic, that comes up to our mind. So let me delete this one. So here we have our table where we can see our dates, total cost per person in euro, and we are required to calculate the overall tool cost per person in Azerbaijani manat. And here we have our dates and the rate euro to Azerbaijani manat, right? And if you pay attention, some dates are missing. For example, 6th and 7th of June of current year are missing. Why? Because these are Saturday and Sundays, when central bank of the country is not just working. So if we are going to apply, let's say, VLOOKUP function and say that my lookup value is going to be my date and table array is going to be this one, right? Let's fix this and say from second table, column. And if we are interested in exact match, in this case, we get this kind of numbers, right? So here we have not available. Why? Because VLOOKUP function looks for the exact match. And as I mentioned earlier, 6th and 7th of June of 2026 are not available. If I'm going to change this false with true, or I can type just 1. So this is my range lookup, Boolean logic. And let me select once again and say Control Enter. In this time, I'm getting the necessary values. For example, here, basically, for these dates that are missing here, rate euro to Azerbaijani manat is extracting from the previous dates rates. So this is the case when we are applying true and false while we are applying VLOOKUP function. And after this, we can multiply the total cost per person in euro and say enter. And thus we are getting the overall, per person total cost in Azerbaijani manat. So this is when we are, looking, when we are applying a VLOOKUP, right? Now let's talk about HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP function does lookup when your data in horizontal way, right? For example, here I have my months, and here I have my regions. These are my, exact correct answers, right? And here I have my months, selected months, and my regions. So I'm interested in finding the necessary, intersection numbers. For example, for February, North, if we go to North and February, this is the number that has to be here, thanking to HLOOKUP function. And it's given here as a correct answer, right? So I'm going to start with, HLOOKUP. My lookup value is going to be my month, this one, right? And as I'm going to apply this function to the right, it means that my column should be fixed, should not be moved while I'm dragging my formula. So it means that I'm going to fix my column in this way, comma, regarding table array, I'm going to say select all this table, and I'm going to fix this table, comma, and my row index number, as it's going to be north. North here is located on the second row, because my first, in table array, my first row also is selected. So I'm saying 2, and also I'm interested in exact match. This time I'm going to type 0, and this way. Now it looks perfect. If I drag, just pay attention here, we get the same answer. Why? The reason is that I have to define my number for south, which is just 5 fun, right? If I select 5, and I will get this number. And for northwest, which is the 7, if I change the row number to 7, I will get the correct answer. So here, when we are applying HLOOKUP, it's better to apply other functions so-called match. If I say match, we see 3 parameters: lookup value, lookup array, and match type. Later, Microsoft offered one more function so-called xmatch. And here we see more components like lookup value, lookup array, match mode, and also search mode, right? So my task is define this number, which is to thanking to match function. For example, if I say match, my lookup value is north, and if I'm going to select this one, and my match type is going to be exact match, I'll get this number. So let me come here, and instead of 2, I'm going to type match. My lookup value is going to be north. So here I have to keep my row fixed, but column changeable. So it means that I'm going to click on F4 for 2 times, comma, my lookup array is going to be this one. It's going to be fixed, and also 0 for exact match, right? So yeah, now if I say like this, and let me change, I will get the correct answers. And here, for example, let's apply data validation and allow list. I'm going to select this one, right? And say, okay. For example, if I'm going to change it west, sorry, and the numbers are changing. If I'm going to change it to southeast, the number are automatically, just change. So this is the reason that we can apply HLOOKUP or VLOOKUP with match functions. Now let's talk about XLOOKUP function. If you remember, I talked that when we apply VLOOKUP function, for the last optional parameter is automatically selected as a true. Okay, but when we are applying XLOOKUP, here we have, the exact matches automatically selected, and we have more, parameters. For example, let me cancel this one. Here, when we applied, this one, true, let's change it to false. And let's say for not available errors, we have to, let's say, apply if error function, right? So we say that if our value is not available, we would like to see it as a 0 and say, okay. And let me select F2, and thus we get zeros. But let me go back. Yes. And let me come to XLOOKUP. Here, when we type XLOOKUP, we can see if not found, which is replacing the if error function. So XLOOKUP has more benefits in comparison with other lookup functions. So, and this function is available in Microsoft subscription versions and also in 2019 desktop version. So let's imagine that we have here product IDs, right? We have here product names, and we have here categories, and these are prices. So I have my product ID, which is this one. So let me just via data apply this data validation, list, and selection, this product ID, and say OK. And we can select any of them. Now, based on the selected product ID, we have to find product name, category, price, just using XLOOKUP function. So let me type XLOOKUP. My lookup value is going to be this one. My lookup array is going to be this one, as it's table formatted, and return array is going to be product name. So here, I'm closing the parentheses because I'm not interested in the following, products, I mean parameters. So when I'm changing this one, I'm getting the necessary answer. And the plus is that, the plus is that is when I'm adding any, formula, I mean, column, it works. So let me go back, and I'm going to do this one we're using with VLOOKUP. Okay, I think there is something wrong with, yes, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I shared the wrong, it's very, very bad, very bad. Thank you, Rustam. Yes, it was my bad. Okay, it was my bad. Yes. So anyway, I'm going to start with, once again, just I hope you'll get the necessary file and you will solve this issue. But anyway, I'm just going to just, cover these points again. So let me just, delete all of them. And here we have our VLOOKUP function, right? And we have our dates. Some dates I'm missing, and we have to find the necessary euro to Azerbaijani manat rates, and thus we have to calculate the cost per person in Azerbaijani manat. So if we are going to apply VLOOKUP function, so let me select all of them, right? And let's say F4, and the second column, and I'm going to select this one, false, right? So, and if I'm going to apply to all the array, so let me check once again. Problem starts with XLOOKUP. Okay, that's great. So anyway, thank you, Rustam. In this case, I'm going to, start with XLOOKUP. That's perfect. Now, because repeating all the same process is not good. Okay, so let's go back to VLOOKUP. Actually, I'm going to, change it into the true one, right? This is true. And yeah, that's it. And let's multiply it with this one. So the problem with VLOOKUP is that, for example, from here, if you see, as you may see, we are extracting values from second, column. For example, if I add any column here, it's not going to work. But when we are using XLOOKUP, so let me apply it once again. So here, what I did, I applied data validation. So this is my list, and I selected these values, right? So, for example, based on this selected value, I have to find my product number. So I'm going to apply XLOOKUP. My lookup value is going to be product ID. My lookup array is going to be this one, right? Okay. And as it's in table format, product table, product ID is automatically selected. My lookup array is going to be this one, my product name. And till that time, I'm just going to, say, close this, the parentheses and click on enter, right? So this is my laptop. So let's say that, let's delete, cancel this one. Yeah, let's do it in any value. So if I'm going to change it with 11, so it's going to be not available, right? So when I'm using XLOOKUP, XLOOKUP has an opportunity like if not found. So here I can, say not found. So this is what XLOOKUP offers me the function of if error function, right? So let me go back using Control Z. And one more plus of XLOOKUP is that, for example, here, when I used VLOOKUP, when I'm adding some columns, VLOOKUP doesn't work perfectly. But let's add some columns here, and it works. Why? Because XLOOKUP refers directly to columns. That's the reason. And so let me also select this one, Control C, escape, and Control V, enter. Let me do also for price, Control V, enter. And here I'm going to select this one to category, right? Enter. And here I'm going to select this one to price, right? Enter. So, and this is what I'm getting, thanking to, XLOOKUP. This is my formula, text function, enter, where you can see the content of XLOOKUP function. So, and also when I'm applying XLOOKUP function, my, say, exact value is automatically selected. This is another plus. That's all. Now, after covering these three lookup function, let's go with let function. So I know that many of you, using Power BI, Business Intelligence Tool, and we know from there that let function is helping us to just, simplify our difficult, challenging formulas. So from this point of view, it's very important. And also it increases the speed of calculation. So when we are using let function, so here you can find the definitions. Let lets you assign names to calculations and reuse them in a formula. And this makes formulas easier to read and maintain. Okay. I'm going with basic functions. So here I have my laptop, item, mouse, keyboard, quantities, and unit prices. So this is our traditional formulas. For example, I can say formula text, and we can see the content of this formula. This is what we are doing, right? And here, just let's apply a simple, let function. We say that let, okay? So for name one, we can define the name one. So let it be subtotal, right? And name value is going to be multiplication of quantity times by unit price, comma, and then I'm going on with name two, name second. This is going to be, say, tax rate. So here, my aim is just, to find the calculation of quantity and unit price plus 10% more. So as we are going to apply tax rate, right? So, and comma, this time I'm going to define my value for my second name. So it's going to be, let's say 10%, right? Comma, and I'm going to, just say, yeah, I'm going to, type my formula. So this is going to be subtotal. So you can find subtotal from here and say times by opening parenthesis 1 plus tax rate. So you can find from here and enter. So this is what thanking it, we can, get the necessary answers, right? So let me type formula text and I can, see the parameters content of my formulas. This is the basic use of let. Of course, there are much more challenging cases, but to keep everything to be done in time, arranged time, so I have to, go with the next one. So lambda is also, very famous among programmers, specifically among the people who are using Python. So, in briefly saying, we can say that lambda is a function that helps us to build our own formulas. So we can actually, for those who are participating in Excel competitions, they can, write their lambdas and they can use these lambdas in real competitions. Thus, it will help them not to lose more time, right? So here I have my number, for example, number one, number two, and the result. So result is uh, summing these values up, right? So for example, here we are going to use lambda for finding the square number of given numbers, right? Or text calculator, full name, so on and so forth. So how do we start write, lambda function? So for example, let's call this one like add numbers. So I'm going to my formulas, and from here, I'm going to open my name manager. If you pay attention here, I have all the stuff. So let me delete these, functions, lambda functions that I have written. So yeah. And here we can see our product table as a table formatted, smart table. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to click on new and say add numbers, right? Add numbers. And here I'm going to apply my lambda function. So actually you can find it here also. So I'm going to say equals lambda opening parenthesis. X is going to be my first value. Y is going to be my second value. And my formula is going to be X plus Y closing parenthesis and say, okay. Now my add numbers lambda function is, just ready. So if I come here, let me just, delete this, set comma, and add numbers. So I see my lambda function. I have to define or select my x and, these y values and enter. Thus, I'm getting the necessary, result. So let me write using formal text. So this actually is some function, but as I used my own custom function like add numbers, so it means that my lambda function is, working perfectly. Okay, great. Now, what we are going to do here, we are going to write one more lambda where we are going to square our values. For example, 10 times 10, 12 times 12, so on and so forth. So once again, for this purpose, actually, I can type my lambda function here, and let's say x, y, and x squared. Actually, we can say like this, x and x squared by 2 and enter. Of course, it's not going to work. I'm going to select this one, Control C, escape, and coming back to name manager, say new and square number. Okay, let's say squared. And here I'm going to, just type, yes, say okay, and close. And here I'm going to apply square. And my x value is going to be this one, closing parentheses, and thus I'm getting the necessary, answer, right? Okay, so I'm not going to apply text calculator. It's very easier, but here what we can do something related to the text strings. For example, let's say that it's my name. Let's type it here, Ilgar Zarbaliyev. These are into different, say, cells, but we would like to see it like this, Ilgar Zarbaliyev. So there are a lot of ways, once again, to use this kind of stuff. But anyway, for challenging cases, these lambdas come to help, support you more. So I'm going to type lambda, and my parentheses, values are going to be x, y, and I'm going to say, for example, x, right? Say, for example, let's say, or we can say ampersand, and once again, ampersand and y. Actually, we can also use the necessary, tell me concat function in this case. But there are a lot of ways. We can use text join, so on and so forth. So it's really, really up to us. So I'm just going to follow this way, or it's better to go with, say, text join. So it's much more interesting. So let me type this one once again. I'm type my lambda function. Here I'm going to say lambda. My parameter is going to be, once again, x, y. And let's use text join function. My delimiter is going to be, space, ignore empty cells, comma, and I'm going to say x, y, right? And here I'm going to copy, Control C, escape. Let's go to name manager. Let's add one new. Let's call it full name, and let's paste it here and say okay, right? And I'm going to apply this new lambda here, like saying full name. my x value is going to be this one, my y value is going to be this one, plus I'm getting the necessary, answer. So this is what we do. Well, let me, yeah, yeah, let me do, formula text. So this is what we do with Lambda function, right? So there are a number of helper functions, Lambda helper functions, but sorry. Okay. So there are a number of Lambda, helper Lambda functions, and one of them is map. Okay. So let's, sorry, let's understand what does just lambda map function does, right? So here it says that map applies a lambda to each item in an array. So here we are going to write formula text, and I'm going to refer here. Now it's not working properly. Let me delete this one. So what we are going to do, we are going to keep original values, and we are going to add to each item 10. So here will be 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35, right? So this is what we are going to do using lambda and map function. So for this purpose, I'm going to type map. So for array, I'm going to select my array, comma, and here I'm going to write my lambda. So say lambda. So I'm going to say my parameter is going to be x, and my calculation will be x plus 10, closing parentheses and enter. Thus, I'm getting at one click all the necessary answer. So this is what map function does, right? Let's go with scan. So let me also change it here, say formula text, right? Okay, let me delete this one. Let's understand what does a total scan function does for us. Scan function, right? Scan returns intermediate results for each step. So in other words, it gives us the running totals, right? For example, here we can do it, when we are using Power BI or pivot table in Excel, right? For example, here it's going to be 100. Here it's going to be 250, 300, 420, and 500, or something like this. Actually, this is going to be, running just total. So in other words, we can say that, let's say, like this, right? This is what we are going to get. So, yeah, but instead of manually typing all the formulas, it's better to use scan function. So, how we solve this issue? Let's type scan. Here, it's very important, initial value. It's either going to be 0 or 1. When we are going to multiply, we are going to use 1. But when we are going to add or subtract, in this case, we are going to use 0 because it does not have any impact, right? Then I'm going to select my array. Sorry. I'm going to select my array, comma, and I'm going to use my function. So for function, of course, I will be using lambda. For parameter x, y, and of course, it's going to be x plus y. Closing parentheses and enter. Thus, I'm getting the necessary answer. So it's very useful, just from this point of really view, it's very, very useful, So yeah, let me check once again to be sure that everything is, correct. So sometimes this kind of stuff, okay. Say, yeah, let me check. Sorry. Okay. Yes. Now everything is okay. Great. Yeah. Okay. Great. Good. Oh, it's okay. That's perfect. Now let's go with reduce. So once again, let me change it here. Formula text, and I'm going to select this one. Let me delete this one. So what does reduce function do? So here in scan function, we get all the necessary running totals, but reduce function gives us only, final, say, result. So let's apply reduce function and we'll understand the difference between scan and reduce and its meaning also. So here I'm going to say reduce. My initial value is going to be 0 as I'm going to sum them up. And I'm going to select this one, right? And my function is going to be reduce. And, lambda, of course. And my parameter is going to be, just x, y, and let's say x plus y. Enter. Just pay attention here. I'm getting the final result. If I say, here we can, see this one. This is 150. That is our, say, um, answer, final answer. Now, let's go by row. Okay. So by row does process one row at a time. Example, calculate a total for each row. So how to understand it? By row and of course by column functions. By the way, these are very good, functions. So let's say that, for example, here we have rows, for row number 4, 5, 6, 7. So quarter 1, 2, 3. And let's say that we are interested in just calculating these values, right? Okay. Or so for this purpose, we can use BYROW, function, right? So what I'm just going to do, first of all, I'm going to type BYROW, right? I'm going to select my array. I'm selecting all the values, comma, then I'm going to use my function. But before using my function, of course, I have to apply to lambda, and I say x. And so what I'm just going to do with BYROW, I would like to sum all the values. So it means that in this case, I'm going to use some function, say x, right, enter. Thus, I'm getting all the totals for, just for this purpose. Actually, it's really maybe very simple, but there are, as I mentioned earlier, much more challenging points where we can, apply this BYROW function. So, for example, let's say that now we are interested in maximum or minimum numbers in these quarters. So, how to do this? So, let me, by the way, type here formula text. Let me select one of them, enter. Now, let's say here we are going to type the maximum and the minimum numbers for these rows. So let me type BYROW. And my array, once again, is going to be this one. Okay. And I'm going to type lambda. And my parameter is going to be x. And let's say max x, right? Enter. Thus, I'm getting the, sorry. I'm going to get the maximum values for each, row. And this is the same that we can do for minimum values. When we are talking about by column function, so whatever we did with BYROW function, it helps us do it by column. So results are going to be calculated based on our, just say, columns. For example, instead of getting total values here, so we are going to get these values for each column, not for each row, but for each column. For example, let's say that we are interested in this time minimum value of this each column. So it means that I'm going to type by column. I'm going to select A, B, C, then lambda X, and let's say minimum X, enter. Thus, I'm getting the minimum values for each column. This is what, say, by column function, is, used. Okay, now let's go with our, let's go with a make array function. This is also a very interesting function. So let's understand what we can do with, with this function. I don't know. Okay, let me, delete. Okay, good. So we know that in 2019 desktop version of Excel, we learned about new functions, dynamic functions like sequence, render array, filter, sort by, sort, and also unique, right? And this time, I'm just going to, we can do the same stuff as we do with sequence, with make array also. But there are differences, and make array is much more, interesting, right? Okay. So, for example, let's do something like this. Let me move this one here. Okay. I'm going to start with here. So let me do it like this. Okay. Let me select, say, column width, it's going to be 5. Okay, perfect. So let's say that we are going to build a table where we will see 5 rows and 5 columns, right? And when we are using make array function helps us not only to build the necessary table, but also it's going to help us to build table with calculation. What I'm trying to tell you is that when we use sequence, for example, row numbers, it's going to be 5, column numbers 5. Let's start with 1, and let's incremental step be 1. And this is, for example, we are getting. For example, if we say that I would like to multiply each item in the array with 5, this time it's not going to, just work. So for this purpose, we are using, so-called make array function, right? So my row number is going to be, for example, 10. Columns is going to be 10. And here I'm going to say lambda, okay? And for example, let's say that x, y, these are my parameters. And for calculation, I'm going to use rand between. That helps me to select numbers randomly. Let it be from 1 to 5, right? And enter. Thus, I'm getting, for example, these, values. I mean, these values. Let's say that this is a simple table. Let's say that I would like to, just to build another table where I would like to multiply each item with each other. So what I'm just trying to tell you is that, say, make array. For example, let's row numbers be 10, and column numbers is also going to be, 10. And here I'm going to use lambda. My parameter is going to be, x, y, and let's say x times y, and enter. Thus, I'm getting very different, numbers, which is really visually very, good. So I'm not going to, just just spend time on make array and sequence and also make array dates. You can find all the necessary information from the solution file, but this is the main difference. So we can say that When we are talking about sequence, this is creating order numbers, but MAKEARRAYS creates values from your own formula. So array function adds also a calculation. So this is the main difference between MAKEARRAY and sequence. Now it's time to talk about the last is omitted, so-called is omitted lambda helper function. So let's do it. Is omitted is playing the role of if function. So how to understand it? So let me give the necessary explanation regarding this function. So for example, if we come here, we say that if y is omitted, result is going to be x times by 2. If y is supplied, result is going to be x multiplication of x and y. So this is the, just say the difference. So let me apply it. For example, I have used a sequence function, right? And I'm not going to use this. Okay. Instead of squared, so let's say what's going to be, yeah, squared and x. Yeah. So let's say that, for example, yeah, it's not going to work. Okay, it doesn't matter. So I will apply it a little bit later. So this is the table that I have gotten, right? So here, let's say that I would like to apply any condition. So what's going to be my condition? So let's say that uh, let's apply this condition, right? So for this purpose, I have to make the necessary changes in this squared function. I'm not going to type this function more. Instead, I'm going to come here, name manager. So here I have my squared. This is my squared function. So I'm going to select this one. Instead, I'm writing this one. So let's pay attention. I say that x, y are my parameters. And if is omitted y, for example, I'm going to select this one and this one. If the second one is omitting, in this case, x squared to 2. Otherwise, the multiplication of x and y. And here, one more difference between, when we are using this omitted function is that is omitted itself is used inside of lambda. This is the main difference. So let's say close. Yes, what we are going to say, okay, it was my bad. I'm saying Control V, and here I'm commit and say close. And let's type here square, and let's select this one, for example, and we are getting, these answers, which means 1 times, actually, if we go to here, just pay attention, it's squared. So 1 squared means 1, 4 squared means 16, and 7 squared means 49. So which is correct? Actually, we didn't apply this one. But but let's say that we can, add let's select one more time. Let's apply this function one more time. Squared. And this time I'm going to select this one, comma, and also I'm going to select this one. Enter. So we are not getting any, value. Okay. So actually, sorry, it's my bad. It's very important when we are using this, function. It's really very important. For example, let's select this one. And if we say comma, which means the second value is, missing, let's see what we are going to get. Yeah. So something is wrong. So sorry, once again, let me type this one. Yes. Or let's do it in this way. B10, let's So now we're getting the necessary answer. So, this is what we are getting. So if we have y parameter provided, in this case, we are getting the multiplication, this one. Otherwise, we get the squared one. So this is where we are using the, say is omitted function, right? Okay. Now I would like to talk about a little bit, say text functions. And actually it's 1 hour. So, but anyway, I'm going to explain all of them. I think it will take not more than 30 minutes. So let's do it. So text before, we know text before helps us to extract the data before the delimiter. So let me type it, text before, and this is going to be my text. And my delimiter, by the way, can be referenced. I'm going to reference, and and let's say closing parentheses, enter. And I'm getting, these just answers, right? So this is what I'm just getting, which is good, right? And text after helps us to find, to extract the data after, delimiter. So let's do this. Let me select all of them, say text after, and I'm going to select my full text. And my delimiter is going to be this one, closing parentheses, enter, plus I'm getting the necessary values. Okay, just I will give one more, good sample regarding these functions. Because it's really, really very important. But let me demonstrate how to solve text split, and I will go back. Text split helps us to split our values. For example, here we have a comma delimiter. So if I'm going to select text split, let me select my values, and my, delimiter is going to be this one. Say enter. Thus, I'm getting these green values, right? So if we are going back, here we have red, blue, and green. Okay. So let's say that I'm interested in only blue or red. I can do this one using both text after and text before. You can find the necessary solutions in solution Excel file. However, I'm just going to use this one, with text split, because when we are using text split, it's, very, very, really easier to do this kind of stuff. So let me type it here. Okay, say text split. Let me, yes, select this one, and my delimiter is going to be this one. Now let's say that I'm interested in blue. In this case, what I'm just going to do, I'm going to say add index, and my array is given with text split, and here I'm going to add my number. For example, if I say 2, let's say it gives me a blue. If I say 1, it's giving me red. So this is the main case when we are talking about split function. Let's go with VSTACK. VSTACK helps us to convert our data into, vertical format. So let's do it. Okay, so let's do it. For example, here I have my table, two table. So let me make a copy of this one. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to combine this value with this value, right? So I'm going to apply VSTACK. Let me select one first array and comma. Here I'm going to select my, second array. So thus I'm getting the full, list. And HSTACK does the same, but everything here is in horizontal way. So let's also do this one. For example, here I have my employee age, start date, and active date. So I'm going to say HSTACK. I'm going to select this one, first array, and my second array, close with parentheses, and enter. Okay. Yeah. So what we can do, for example, let's do something like this. Yes. This is what HSTACK does. Wrap rows and wrap columns. Wrap rows converts a single column into multiple rows. For example, here we have this function. So what we can do, we can take this in transpose way. For example, when we are using transpose function, let's say, this is my source list, we get values in this way. But if we would like to display all these values in 3 or 4 or 5, you know, say rows, in this case, transpose will not help us, right? So for this purpose, we are going to use wrap rows, and I'm going to select this one, comma, wrap count, let it be 3. And here, path width. It's very interesting. So I'm getting all this. For example, let's say that instead of 3, I'm going to use 5. So here I have my not available. So in this case, I'm going to use this path width, saying, you know, blank values. Now we see blank values, right? This is where we can use. So say no value, for example, right? So this is what where we use this path value, okay? And WRAPCOLS does the same, but in vertical order, right? So, for example, let's say WRAPCOLS, and let's select our vector, and let's say that we're interested in 5 columns, and let it be not available, right? So this is what we are going to get. The same stuff like in wrap rows. Once again, there are more challenging, samples in solution file. You can have a look. Let me try to complete this take one. So take function returns a specified number of rows or columns. So for example, let's say take my array is going to be this one, and say that I'm interested in rows, right? So rows means, for example, 3 rows, right? Okay, say closing parentheses and enter. Okay, and it automatically starts with from the top. If I say -3, it starts from the bottom. So if I say I'm interested in only one column, it gives us only the names of, products from the first column, right? Drop does the same, but in a negative way. So what it means, it drops the number of rows, removes rows or columns. So the same, if I say drop, and let's select this one, and let's select 3, and yes, I get this one. So it, drops the first 3 one, and it starts with keyboard. If I say -3, it starts from the top. If I say here one column, so it gives us only the, second column, right? If I say 2, let's see. So there is no calculation. If I say 0, so I see both the, I mean, these, we can see these results, right? Or if we would like in one column, instead of 0, I say -1, and I'm getting this one. Now, last three functions. This is going to be, expand function. So let me tell you, okay? Oh, expand, what does expand function do? Expand function enlarge an array to a specified size. For example, here we have January, February, and March. Let's say that we would like to add three more, months. So for this purpose, we say expand. Let me select this array, and let's say that I'm interested in adding three more rows, and say one column, and iPad with, let me, yeah, I see only this one, right? So actually, to see the added rows, we need here, add, provide our path width. So let's say new month, and yeah. Oh, I think something is, yeah, because this is 3, it should be like this. Yes. Now we'll see this one. If I'm going to, say delete this one, so we'll see something this. Okay. So and to be honest, I explored this function where we can use this function, and sometimes just let's say that instead of new months, we are interested in seeing, say the other month names. So for this purpose, what we can say, actually, we can use, let's say, VSTACK function. Once again, please explore our solution file. There you will find much more interesting, info. So let me select this one. So I'm selecting my array, comma, and then curly bracket. I'm going to add, for example, April, May, and June, and closing parentheses. Sorry, yeah, closing parentheses. Thus, I'm going to get these, names. Something is also not correct, so we have to understand this way. Here we have to pay attention. Here, instead of comma, it's better. I mean, it's true to use semicolon. I hope it's going to work well. So let's say formula text and enter. So this is what we can do with expand function. Last two functions, maximum 5 minutes. Choose rows and choose columns. So choose rows, return specific rows from an array. It's very straightforward. So we can say choose rows. Let me select my array. Actually, I'm going to select this one. And here I have my opportunity just to select the necessary rows. Let it be 1, 3, and 5, right? So this is what I'm getting. Of course, it's very obvious that if I'm going to, start, actually you can select the necessary rows. And so choose columns, does the same, but it returns the specific columns from an array. For example, let's say that choose columns. I'm interested in, let me select this one. For example, column number 1 and 4. So we get the two, one first and fourth, let's say, column. So let me add also 3, 4, closing parentheses, enter. Thus, I'm getting this kind of, table. So this is what we use choose columns, right? So these are the main functions that can be useful in, let's say, our Excel competitions, right? And also would be better to pay attention to dynamic functions. By the way, tomorrow, this time, I'm going to demonstrate how to solve one case in 40 minutes. At least I will do the bonus questions. So you can find the necessary info about this. Let me show you. Okay, sorry. From meetup, group. So I will demonstrate how to solve, because you have to have the necessary imagination, necessary understanding, knowledge about the type, the structure of the competitions. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. So you can join also to this competition. I will, just try to demonstrate how to solve at least the bonus question. That is going to be useful. By the way, our final exam competition is going to happen on August 20. I will keep you informed about the location. I'm just trying to do my best, to find the sponsors, so on and so forth, just to go to Las Vegas. This is all from my side. Sorry for taking 10 more time, minute more time, your time, because I couldn't, finish 10 minutes earlier. So thank you very much. If you have any question, you can just, type or call me. I don't know, you can contact me via YouTube channel, and also, via Meetup group. So thank you very much. I'm just going to stop sharing. If you have once again, any stuff, just let me know. Thank you very much. See you, just next time. Bye.